That's an insane amount of money to be stealing from barely more than a dozen individuals. And, really goes to show that everybody needs a union, including strippers.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're going to start with Boss Watch. In Texas, a federal whistleblower investigation found that Union Pacific Railroad Company violated the Federal Railroad Safety Act by terminating a railroad engineer after the employee reported and sought medical care for a work-related injury. The Department's Occupational Safety and Health Administration has ordered Union Pacific to reinstate the employee and pay back wages, interest, compensatory and punitive damages, and attorney's fees totaling over $300,000. Really exciting judgment there. Appreciate the civil servants at the Occupational Safety and Health Administration for their work on this case. And I think, stuff like this is worth noting as railroad companies are trying to merge with one another. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, that Union Pacific Railroad is one of the railroad companies that is trying to merge. And so you have to wonder if these companies are responsible enough to be trusted with an even higher level of market concentration than they already have. Are these actors trustworthy enough to do that? And I think maybe not. And just as a public safety announcement, OSHA's Whistleblower Protection Program enforces 25 whistleblower statutes that protect employees from retaliation for reporting violations of various workplace safety and health, airline anti-money laundering, commercial motor carrier, consumer product, criminal antitrust, environmental, financial reform, food safety, health insurance reform, maritime, motor vehicle safety, nuclear, pipeline, public transportation agency, railroad safety and health, securities, and tax laws. So lots of whistleblower protections, and you can reach out to OSHA if you want to take advantage of those.
Right, and I did want to mention it was Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern
that are trying to merge. And
a lot of the railroad unions have put out statements about that. So we may get to that later in the show, but lots of talk in the rail industry about this.
Yeah. Not good is probably the thing there. In Alabama, this from AL.com's Patrick Darrington. I think Patrick has been on the show before. We talk occasionally. He's a good guy. He's reporting on the Birmingham strip club, The Furnace, paying $1.25 million to settle a labor lawsuit levied by former exotic dancers, according to newly unsealed documents. The settlement was reached in February 2024, and part of the agreement included that the records be sealed for 18 months. Well, those 18 months have come and gone, so now the records are unsealed, and according to those records, 19 former workers received varying amounts of payments totaling $1.25 million that were based on an approximation of the time plaintiffs worked but were not paid minimum wage.
Wow.
The workers contended that the Furnace violated the Fair Labor Standards Act by not paying the workers minimum wage or overtime due to classifying the dancers as independent contractors. The lawsuit also alleged the strip club illegally took the dancers' tips and engaged in an illegal kickback scheme by requiring the dancers to fork over house fees. U.S. Magistrate Judge John England ruled in October of 2023 that the dancers were employees of the business and subject to the FLSA, not independent contractors. We've actually had some strippers on the program before who were part of a union campaign, and I think that this, I don't even, it's almost unfathomable that you could get to $1.25 million of unpaid wages with just 19 people. Think about, that's an insane amount of money to be stealing from barely more than a dozen individuals. And for minimum wage and overtime violations. I mean, that is absolutely wild stuff. And, really goes to show that, everybody needs a union, including strippers, including anybody who has a boss, if you have a boss, you need a union, and to protect yourself from these kinds of abuses.
Yeah, I'm glad Patrick put that article out, and I'm glad the judge saw correctly what was going on, right? It's you never know. It's a crapshoot in our system whether or not, a solid case is actually going to be a solid case in front of the right judge. So, kudos for doing the right thing, for recognizing that these workers were being exploited. They were being misclassified. It's $1.25 million of minimum wage, right? Because minimum wage in Alabama is $7.25. Just to be clear, for those of you listening from out of state, we do not have a minimum wage law here in Alabama. So it's just whatever the federal law is, which has not gone up since 2008, 2009, somewhere in that arena. I was like a freshman in college. And my daughter is now in 4th grade. So hasn't gone up since. But yeah, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money to be stealing from your workers. So shout out to those 19 workers. Hope you enjoy that payday. And I encourage you to organize a union.
Yeah.
So you can keep that kind of crap from happening again.
And it's interesting that the strip club tried the argument about them being independent contractors. This is something that we're seeing a lot these days, and a lot of the reporting around that is actually is sort of kind of hints at or implies that this is a new thing, that this hasn't happened before. But actually, if you go back and read a little bit of labor history, you'll know that there was a very similar sort of arrangement that coal operators, they used a very similar type of independent contractor arrangement in the early days, like in the early 1900s. And so, what's old is new again as far as the independent contractor stuff. It was bad then and it's bad now. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. This segment of Boss Watch, Union Busters, covering national updates, is sponsored by Labor Lab. Labor Lab is an employer watchdog organization. They are committed to safeguarding the right to organize through unions, collective bargaining, and mutual aid. They do this by combing through reports that Union Busters are required to file with the Department of Labor. Here are the new filings from this week. Lux Bus America in California hired the TAG group. Workers lost that election 22-23. They and these people, just like the Navistar Union Busters, did not file until after the union election. Ocean Spray Cranberries hired LRI Consulting Services for $425 an hour, but workers still won that union election 14-1. These Union Busters also did not file until after the election tally was announced. Darigold in Washington State hired David Grimm Payne and Mara for $440 an hour. That union election is still open. Concord Hospital in New Hampshire hired Bardi Education Services. That election is still open. There were a couple of amended filings. The HR Jock added their compensation rate of $212.50 an hour for Blue Oval SK in Kentucky. And Davis Grimm Payne and Mara added the local union that they were organizing against for the Medics Ambulance Service. As a reminder, due to a lack of enforcement, some labor relations consultants may disregard the law and fail to report their activities to the U.S. Department of Labor, as the Union Busters at Navistar and Huntsville did. Therefore, it's crucial for organizers and workers to report suspected persuader activity to the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Labor Management Standards, OLMS. You can do that by via email, olms-public@dol.gov. You can also call 202-693-0123 or contact your nearest OLMS office. If you need assistance with that, you can contact Labor Lab at contact@laborlab.us. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.